I'm just assuming, but is it a lot harder to make a music video, with a song? Not just because you have to produce a whole song, but also if you're going to animate it, you have to then have different scenes for all these different lyrics versus a narrative video where you can kind of put it in one, quote unquote set and have it all there.
Yeah. I mean, I did. There was one song I did in the past year that was actually all on one set, essentially,
Hmm.
which was pretty interesting. But different things get. It's. I don't know. See, and here's the other thing. I don't know how much to care about the actual question because really, looking at it from a distance, a lot of what goes on these shows is like it's actually less important to give a damn about what the original question was
Hmm.
in terms of what I should do as like answering the question or as either one of us. Yeah, I have a lot to learn. I'm just thinking about this. Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
It's a learning process, Bill. It's all good.
Yeah,
When you
yeah.
when you make a video
Oh,
like
that's I gotta. There you go.
when you
It's
make
too.
when you make a video, so you said that you made a whole video where it's like all one scene. So is that literally you're taking like one 3D file and you're doing it and you're rendering it all in basically one shot? You're
It
not
actually was.
chopping?
Yeah, yeah. And that's on the quick schedule. That's ambitious to really get into the serious modeling. The way it ended up working when I was on the recent schedule, which was 3 weeks
Hmm.
for the whole thing. At first, it was just songs. It was all songs. I didn't really have a plan for how to do non-songs because I was like way behind on song. I felt like I hadn't done enough songs in my life, so it was just like keep doing songs until I don't feel like that anymore. So that's to answer another question I think you had at one point. That's why I switched to non-songs because I finally felt like I had done enough songs, and then I started to really, really want to do non-songs. But with non-songs, there's a problem because here's what happens with non-songs. Really, the best thing to do is merge the non-song with the song. That's what we're going for in life. I feel like that is what makes songs better and it makes non-songs better if they go together. Really, the music's best friend is non-music, and non-music's best friend is music.
Hmm.
So that's what you try to get to. But when you do that, it gets kind of dicey because bureaucratically it gets very confusing. And the same thing happens with like musicals because like let's say you have like you got some non-song stuff and then you got some song stuff. What if you go into a song bit thing that's musical and it actually launches to like seemingly higher heights than just a straight up song would do. But because it's part of a musical or part of a combination of music and non-music, what do you then do with that song? Are you allowed to release that song as just as an audio song on its own, or does it without the context? So you get into this weird crisis that the better the song bits within the non-song get, the more tragic it feels to not be able to actually do anything with that non-song.
When
So
you're
that's where it becomes a confusing sort of bureaucratic disaster, and that held me back from really doing non-songs. It definitely held me back from doing like non-songs that really are halfway between songs and non-songs. It got me scared to do it because I was scared that the music would get too good and it would make me sad and confused and not know what to do with the music because it gets closer and closer to being a song and yet you still can't release it separately.
So when you're writing a song, are you visualizing the video and do you ever write a part of the song knowing, oh, when I turn this into a music video, I can do this? Or do you just kind of do the
Yeah,
song and then add and just find out how you can like exploit little parts of the song to make a good video?
yeah. Technically, there's no like requirement that it has to be any certain video, but I mean, a lot of the times it's obvious,
Hmm.
and it's also I've found it's a good songwriting trick, regardless of whether I use what I'm thinking of in the video when it comes time to do the video, because the video is always done completely after the song. Maybe that's a good idea, maybe that's a bad idea, but it's yeah, regardless of whether I use whatever I'm thinking of, it's a good songwriting trick. So when I'm thinking, when I'm in the songwriting process, just writing the song, it seems to be a pretty good trick to put it in a scene.
Gotcha. Do you
Just put a person somewhere in your mind, and then just it actually can launch you into musical ideas way more readily,
so you kind of use
regardless
it
of
as like a
whether I end up using.
cross, like a cross inspiration?
Yeah, but regardless of whether I even use that in the video,
Hmm.
I usually don't take it that seriously to try to remember because I don't know. Maybe I should though.
I mean, hey, it seems to be working.
I don't know.
So do you always start like when you're making something? Do you always start and finish that exact project, or do you tend to
It
kind of like do bits
yeah.
and pieces?
No, it turns out, yeah, I sort of feel like I answered that question at a certain point. I mean, yeah, I mean, for myself. Yeah, no, I do it sequentially,
Hmm.
like finish one and the next, because I every now and then I someone suggests that sometimes, or I'll think of it because but it gives you a license to escape if you're allowed to switch projects. It suddenly it's just another variable to worry about. Like, okay, all the things that I'm confused about on this project add into the fact now I'm not even sure if I should keep working on this project. So it just makes it more confusing, and it dilutes the whole thing, and it ends up being way simpler if it's all in a direct linear line. At least that's what I've learned.
Do you like to
So yeah,
take time
it's
in
sequential.
between projects so that way you can kind of let your brain refresh and kind of make sure you don't burn yourself out?
Well, yeah, well, yes and no. I mean, yes, I do like to do that, but it adds to the torture of the relentless march of time going by, because it already takes so long probably to do each one of these things. So the last thing you want to do is add time to that. So yeah, it's torturous in that way, but yes, I do need it. So I do take the time.
What's the quickest that you've ever been able to get a video out where you're like, man, everything's just flowing right and it just kind of pops out versus some of the others, where they're like it's kind of like pulling teeth to get it, finished.
I don't know. It depends if I'm on a schedule. I mean, if I'm on a schedule, it's not gonna get done early per se, but if I'm not on a schedule, it takes a long time. I I'm not really sure. I don't think it ever gets done quickly unless it is really short. Unless there's no pressure. Unless I literally don't think I'm going to release it. That's what makes things get done, is if you literally don't think you're going to release it.
Do you
If
have
it's
like
like something you did for an experiment or something.
do you have a backlog? Do you have, hard drives of videos that are like 90% there that you're like, you know what? It's not
No.
right.
No, because at least not any time in the last 10 years, because like at a certain point I got serious about the sequential thing. Like, you select the thing and that is the thing, and it is being selected for production, and you do not do anything else until, I mean, well, no, you don't release anything else until that's released, unless some kind of unforeseen crisis happens.
So you started what, in the early 2000s uploading videos, right?
No, I didn't put anything online until 2014.
Okay. I don't know why I thought you had done some before that. So 2014 is when you really got started. Before that
On you said upload.
like, putting stuff
I've been
like
doing stuff
posting.
for decades before that, but it was offline.
Okay. And is that
And then a huge percentage of that has made it to the website, and that's one of the reasons I have the website, is because I can type in the correct date that it was made and not the date that it was uploaded.
okay? So you had not
Although now, yeah,
you just had like all this stuff that you had made and it was all finished, but it was just, you're the only person who would watch it.
some stuff is finished, some is, I mean, whatever. As you go back further, there's stuff that is like, I don't really know what finished means when you go back that far.
Does that
But at
happen
a
a lot
certain point,
now where you have videos that you go back and you retroactively add them to the website, or are you basically just working on new
there are
projects?
there I do add things now that were made in the past, and there are things that I'm doing now that will probably be retroactively added in the future.
Hmm.
Yeah, quite often bits of things that are part of the production process, like little artifacts, like maybe an image or maybe a 3D model or something, or just a little bit of, maybe if I did a screen recording to draw a line on the video, maybe that video separately will be a neat little artifact, and those will sort of sneak their way onto the website at some point, correctly dated for when they were made, but they won't show up until the whole website is a archaeological endeavor,
Hmm.
largely.
Well, actually, I wanted to ask, you're talking about like building 3D models and stuff like that. I don't know if you've seen
Yeah,
the intro to this show. Is 100% 3D animated.
I
And
should have seen it, but I didn't.
it's no, don't worry about it. Like I'll send
Yeah,
it. You'll see it. I'll send you this later, and you can check it out. But it's fully 3D animated. I
yeah,
self taught myself this program called Blender, and
yeah,
the thing is, I'm like 50-50 split between making my own assets, like, 3D models,
yeah.
and getting them online. Do you make everything from scratch, all of your 3D
I do
models?
now. I do now. I do now. And a few years ago, when I wasn't really all fully on 3D, I was just barely hanging on to a tiny bits of 3D. Uh, I would get a thing or two here and there. I mean, that amounts to a total of probably three things, which are tiny little bits. There wasn't much 3D before, but ever since I've been doing all 3D, I do make all my own stuff.